Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dive into a whole stack of sources, pull out the key insights, and help you get properly informed fast. Today, we're getting into something I find really fascinating, the whole world of digital music production. It's a space that's just constantly changing, isn't it? Especially now with, all the new tech, particularly AI. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's amazing. And what's fascinating here is just how much more accessible making music has become, right? I mean,
Mm.
while AI is definitely making certain parts of music production easier to jump into, getting really good, that still needs a solid grasp of the core ideas and the techniques. So this journey today is really about giving you that essential understanding. It's kind of a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed about how music gets put together nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And this deep dive, it's built on a really great mix of sources. We've got um, detailed explanations of the whole process, descriptions of the tools involved, and some pretty sharp thinking on how AI is shaking things up. So our mission here is basically to demystify the whole thing for you, from that very first tiny idea for a song right through to the final polished track you hear.
Absolutely. Music production, it really covers such a wide range of skills and, well, knowledge. You go from that initial creative moment
Yeah.
all the way through the post-production stuff at the very end. And it's interesting seeing how the new tech fits in. You've got tools like CBS, which is known for its composition algorithms, AIVA, people use that a lot for like film scores. SUNO, which is wild. You can generate whole songs just from text. And AC Studio, which is pretty powerful for creating vocals. These AI platforms, they can definitely help out. But they sit alongside the traditional big names, Pro Tools, Logic. They're making stages like arrangement, even mastering, maybe a bit more reachable. And this is important, just relying only on AI, that's really not going to cut it if you want a proper career in music production. You've got to have the human foundation.
That's a really key distinction. Okay, so let's talk about that foundation then. If you want to understand how a modern song actually comes together, what are the essential tools? What software are producers really leaning on today?
Well, looking at our sources, they break it down into about 6 main types of tools that are pretty much standard now. First up, and you could argue these are the most critical, are the digital audio workstations, the DIWs.
The DIWs, right?
Yeah, think of them as the main hub, the command center for pretty much everything. It's the software producers use for recording, editing, mixing, mastering, the works. And what's really changed the game is how DIWs made production so much more democratic, It shifted the power from these huge, expensive studios to, well, individual artists. Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Ableton Live, those are some big ones.
Okay, so that's the main environment, the digital workspace. What else is in that toolkit?
Right, next you've got virtual instruments or VSTs. These are basically digital tools you use inside the DAW, and they simulate real instruments, pianos, guitars, strings, whole drum kits even.
Ah, okay. So you don't need the actual physical instrument sometimes.
Exactly, they give you this huge range of sounds. Super versatile. Then you have plugins. These are more specialized tools for processing the audio. So this is where you get into like EQ, equalization, controlling dynamics with compressors, adding effects, reverb, delay, that kind of thing.
Okay, I've definitely heard people talk about reverb and delay. So those are plugins. How do they actually, what do they do to the sound?
Yeah, classic examples. Reverb adds that sense of space, like the sound is in a room or a hall. Delay creates echoes. And compressors, they're not just about volume. They're kind of the secret weapon for making everything sound cohesive, glued together. Gives it that professional punch. Your ears might not consciously notice it's there, but you definitely notice if it was missing.
Huh. Okay, so that's software. What about physical gear?
Yep, still essential. You need hardware equipment. Things like good quality microphones to capture the sound in the first place. Audio interfaces. Those are the boxes that get the sound from the mic into the computer, converting analog to digital. And crucially, monitor speakers. You need accurate speakers to actually hear what you're doing properly.
Makes sense.
Then you've got MIDI controllers. These are things like keyboards, electronic drum pads, beat machines. They don't usually make sound themselves, but they send MIDI data instructions to trigger those virtual instruments we talked about.
Got it. And you mentioned 6 things. What's the last one?
The last category is music theory tools. This could be software for writing out musical scores or maybe chord dictionaries. Tools designed to help producers understand and apply music theory concepts while they're working. And all these categories, they really work together. They form the complete toolkit for shaping the sound.
That's fascinating. So, okay, we know the tools now. Let's talk about the actual journey of a song. How does it go from just an idea to something finished? It sounds like a pretty structured process.
Oh, it absolutely is. Generally, you can think of 5 key stages that kind of build on each other, adding layers and refining the idea as you go. You've got Creation, arrangement, recording, mixing, and finally, mastering.
Okay, stage one, creation. Let's start right there. Where does a song actually begin? It feels like it's got to be more than just like notes on a page, right?
That's exactly right. Music creation is, well, it's deeply artistic, isn't it? It covers everything from dreaming up the initial concept, maybe writing lyrics, designing that core melody. It's where the actual soul of the song comes from, and really demands creativity, yeah, but also a good understanding of music itself, style, emotion, the creator's own personality and experience. That massively shapes the song, makes each one unique, trying to convey certain feelings or ideas. And, now with AI, sometimes that first spark might even get a little nudge from an algorithm suggesting a melody or some chords.
Yeah, a digital muse almost.
Okay, so here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. You've got that core idea, the melody maybe. How do you build that out? How does it become a full song? That's the next stage. Arrangement. This is where you take all the pieces, melody, harmony, rhythm, other bits, and you organize them into a complete track. You need a really solid grasp of music theory here, and you need to know how to tailor all those elements to fit the song's style, its emotional core. The arranger needs to understand, like, the characteristics of different instruments. How do you combine them effectively to get that rich, layered sound? And again, AI is starting to poke its nose in here too, offering suggestions for maybe layering instruments or different rhythmic patterns, sort of a co-arranger.
And I remember reading within arrangement itself, there are more specific skills needed, right? It's not just one thing.
Exactly. It breaks down further. There's instrument arrangement, figuring out which instruments play what, how they fit together for harmony and texture, their sounds, their ranges. Then chord design, choosing or creating the right chord progressions to add depth and richness. That really relies on knowing your harmony theory. Similarly, harmony design itself, how do melodies and chords work together to create those rich effects? Again, deep music theory needed.
It sounds like a real balancing act, making sure everything works together without getting muddy or cluttered.
Totally. And then there's rhythm design. Super important for the song's feel, its energy, its groove, designing the right patterns, organizing the beats to create excitement and movement. And finally, designing song progression. This is about the overall structure, the verses, choruses, bridges, the transitions between them. How do you keep the listener engaged? That takes understanding musical form, shaping the song's story and its ups and downs.
Wow. Yeah, it's clear that each of those, it's not something you just pick up overnight. It takes real learning, real practice to get good at making music that's both, technically solid and actually creative.
Absolutely. True mastery definitely comes from dedication, study, practice, even if AI can lend a hand sometimes.
Okay, so the song is now fully arranged, at least in concept. How do we capture it? How do we get those sounds out of our heads or off the instruments and into the digital world?
That brings us to the recording stage. This is obviously crucial. It's where the musicians perform, and you capture that performance. You need good gear, yes, but also professional techniques to make sure the sound quality is top-notch. It's not just hitting record. It often involves processing the sound a bit, adjusting things, to get the best possible result for listening later.
So what does that process look like?
Well, it usually starts with preparation. Choosing the right room or space, setting up all the equipment correctly, making sure the instruments are tuned and ready, the musicians are warmed up, then the actual recording. Musicians play, the engineer operates the gear, focusing on capturing everything clearly with good balance. And after that, there's usually some editing and cleanup, tidying up the recorded tracks, maybe fixing small mistakes, getting them ready for the next stage, which is mixing.
And what are the really critical things here? What can mess up a recording session?
Oh, several things. The recording environment itself is huge. Is it quiet? Does it sound good acoustically? Any background noise? That stuff matters. The instrument condition, obviously, and the musician's skill, can they play the part well? Then there's the equipment quality and settings. Choosing the right microphone, putting it in the right place. That's an art in itself. And finally, just good communication and coordination between everyone involved. The musicians, the engineer, everyone needs to be on the same page about the sound they're trying to achieve.
Okay, so now you've got all these individual recordings, maybe drums, bass, guitars, vocals, lots of separate tracks. How do you make them all sound good together? How do you get that single, cohesive, professional-sounding song we end up hearing?
Right, that's the magic of mixing. It's all about blending those multiple recorded tracks into one harmonious whole. This really demands proper sound engineering knowledge, serious skills. You need to make sure every track has its place and can be heard properly. Mixing engineers are constantly thinking about Volume balance, the tone of each instrument, where things sit in the stereo field left to right, making sure all the tracks just work together nicely. It's definitely technical, but also very creative, finding the right space for every sound.
And this is where those plugins you mentioned earlier really earn their keep, right? What are the main types used in mixing?
Oh yeah, plugins are absolutely essential here. The main workhorses include EQ, the equalizers.
Mm.
They let you adjust the frequencies, the highs, mids, lows to shape the tone of each track. Then the compressor. We touched on this. It controls the dynamic range, the difference between loud and quiet bits. Makes the volume smoother, more consistent, stops things jumping out too much or getting lost. Prevents distortion too. Reverb adds that sense of space, makes things sound like they're in a real environment. Delay or echo creates repeating sounds, adds depth. Cool effects. You've also got pitch correction plugins. Auto-tune is the famous one for fixing slightly off-key vocals or instruments, either automatically or manually. And noise suppression plugins, which help clean things up by reducing unwanted background noise, like hiss from an amplifier or maybe air conditioning rumble. And some of the newer plugins are pretty smart, even using AI to analyze the track and suggest, say, good EQ settings or compression levels as a starting point.
It's amazing the level of control you have with these digital tools.
It really is. All these plugins, they're based on something called digital signal processing, DSP. Basically, fancy algorithms that manipulate the audio signal mathematically. Gives you incredible precision and flexibility.
Okay, so we've had the idea, creation, structured it, arrangement, captured it, recording, and blended it all perfectly, mixing. What is the absolute final step, the last polish before the music goes out into the world, ensuring it sounds great everywhere?
That final stage is mastering. This is where you take the final mix, that single stereo file, and you fine-tune it for optimal sound quality across all kinds of playback systems and formats. From tiny earbuds to massive club speakers, from streaming services to vinyl records. Mastering is also really important for albums, making sure all the songs have a consistent volume level, tone, and dynamic feel. It really is a blend of technical sound engineering and artistic judgment. It's that final quality control, the last gloss.
So it's like the ultimate quality check, making sure it translates properly no matter how you listen to it.
That's a perfect way to think about it, yeah. And in mastering, you use similar types of plugins as mixing, but often more specialized, higher precision versions, and use more subtly. So you'll use equalizers, EQ again, but for very fine adjustments to the overall tonal balance of the whole track. Compressors are key, including advanced types like dynamic or multi-band compressors.
What do those advanced ones do?
Well, a dynamic compressor can automatically adjust the compression based on the input level or frequency content. A multi-band compressor lets you compress different frequency ranges, like just the bass or just the treble independently. It gives you really precise control over the dynamics without affecting the whole sound. Ensures a consistent, powerful sound overall. Then you have limiters. These are like super strong compressors designed for one main job. Preventing the audio from ever going above a specific maximum volume level. Stops clipping and distortion on playback systems.
Ah, okay. That final safety net.
Exactly. Then there's stereo processing. Tools to adjust the stereo with how wide the sound feels and the balance between left and right channels. Helps make sure it sounds good in different listening environments. You might also use saturation and harmonic enhancement. These plugins add subtle warmth, thickness, richness, often by simulating the sound of vintage analog gear. And as I mentioned, multi-band compression and equalization offer that super targeted control over specific frequency bands. Using all these tools effectively, though, that really takes professional knowledge, a lot of experience, and very good ears to get the best possible sound quality.
It's an incredibly detailed process.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to the bigger picture, what does all this mean for the future? Especially with AI developing so quickly, how is that changing music production?
Yeah, the impact of AI.
Yeah.
It's definitely a huge topic in the industry right now. We're already seeing it used in things like automatic songwriting tools, systems that can classify music by genre automatically, or power music recommendation engines. AI can also analyze music that's already written, give feedback to composers on things like melody, rhythm, harmony, even suggest new ideas or variations. It's showing up in music education too, helping students maybe grasp theory or techniques a bit faster. Looking ahead, it seems pretty clear that music production is going to rely more and more on these kinds of advanced technologies. I think AI is going to become an increasingly important partner in the creative process. Not really a replacement for human creativity, but more like a collaborator. The producers who really succeed will likely be the ones who figure out how to blend their own artistic vision with the capabilities that AI offers.
That makes a lot of sense. So wrapping this up, you've hopefully now got a much clearer picture of everything that goes into making the music you listen to. From that very first spark right through to the final mastered track. It's clearly a complex mix of art, technology, and skill, and now increasingly a touch of AI too.
Indeed, it's a field that's always moving, always evolving, which really highlights how important continuous learning and adapting are if you're working in music production today. And this raises an important question, doesn't it?
How might this growing collaboration between human artists and artificial intelligence actually change the creative process itself in fundamental ways? And thinking ahead, what kind of completely new, maybe surprising genres or forms of music might bubble up from this human AI synergy in the coming years? Something to think about.